Hello once again, witchy people, and welcome back to my covenstead and another peek into my Sabbat Spicerack. Today it's another berry, it's Sloe berries or Blackthorn. Now, obviously you can't find the fresh berries at this time of year. Where I live in the at the moment, southern England, the best time to pick Sloe berries is usually around about September after the first frosts. And it's got to be a really deep frost. The frost tends to split the skins slightly and allows them to sweeten up. The number of sloes you find on a bush greatly depends, I think, on the weather you've had throughout the previous year, especially spring and summer. So if it's been very, very dry, the berries will be shriveled and not very good. And they'll be small. If it's been too wet, the berries sometimes won't appear at all. You need it to be warm and moist. Sort of like lots of showers, but not too much. And then you'll get lovely, juicy, big berries. Or you'll get, obviously, lots of different kind of berries. But you'll know when they're ripe because you can squish them between your forefinger and thumb and they'll almost pop. They are very drying to the mouth if you eat them raw. So I wouldn't advise it. I think it's because they're full of tannin. So they really make your mouth want to go, like you've sucked a lemon or something. So let's go more about the Blackthorn. It's been used, it's part of the rosebush family, and it's been used certainly since Neolithic times. There have been, like the seeds of the berries, the pips of the berries have been found to have been eaten and ingested and then pooped out by Neolithic persons. And the wood and the bark has been used for, it's very, very strong wood. So it's been used for all sorts of stuff. But I mean, the bark even is being used as a dye, a brown dye. So incredibly useful plant. If you look into the folklore of it, it's absolutely, you could spend hours looking into it because most, my brain is not working. Most different lands and cultures of ancient people will have folklore about the blackthorn bush, tree, shrub. Because let's face it, it's kind of like a bush more than a tree. Thank you, Barkley. So you can use, as I said, the whole plant, the twigs. Obviously, there are no leaves in winter. The berries you can use dried magically throughout the winter. Thorns, especially good for pricking poppets, and the flowers if they've been saved. So magically, it goes really well with juniper. Funnily enough, it's quite a contradictory plant. So it brings hope and joy, and helps open us up. However, spiritually, opens us up. However, also spiritually, it's known as the keeper of secrets, and helps keep your secrets buried very, very deeply. And it's also used for protection. It's absolutely wonderfully mixed with apple and orange peel at this time of year as well, and steeped to make a tea. Absolutely beautiful. For incense, it's excellent used with juniper, and mistletoe. Absolutely goes brilliantly with mistletoe as an incense. And obviously, once again, sloe gin. I love sloe gin. I will have a recipe for you, don't worry. So Blackthorn has a bit of a dark reputation within witchcraft. Kind of like the opposite of its sort of sister shrub, which is the hawthorn. And it was always said that it's hawthorn to heal and blackthorn to hex. So part of that, like I said, you can use the thorns to use in a poppet instead of pins. Traditionally, blackthorn was used, and you have to be very, very careful because the thorns can be huge, and if you prick yourself with them, they can cause, they can go septic, it can cause blood poisoning, all sorts. So you've got to be really, really careful. It was said that witches were burnt on pyres of blackthorn, and in the fairy tale The Sleeping Beauty, the bush that grew up around the castle where she was magically put to sleep was said to be of blackthorn, which is why the thorns were so big and so hard to penetrate. If you pick the fresh berries, they're very, very high in tannin, which gives you that horrible dried feeling in your mouth. It's not very good to eat fresh. They sort of make your mouth feel like you just put a bitter sweet, a bitter sour lemon, sort of like this sort of thing. And they, like I said, very, very drying to the mouth and not very pleasant. But, you know, there are some wonderful recipes you can make which will certainly sweeten up, definitely, the berries. So my favourite is, as I've said, sloe gin. And you can use sloe gin in many, many different ways. You can also use the sloes. I'll go into that in a minute. When they're dried, they can be quite difficult to grind up, so bear that in mind. So to make sloe gin or sloe vodka, it's exactly the same. So you need about 1 litre of gin or vodka, about 500 grams of ripe sloes, so you pick them when they're ripe, and about 250 grams of preferably golden caster sugar, though, you know, what you've got really is the best. You know, if you don't happen to have caster sugar, use something else. You can buy sugar, especially for making liqueur alcohols. So, okay, so what you need to do is you get a big jar with a lid that you can seal completely, and it needs to be about 2 litres. And you clean all the sloe berries, make sure there's no stalks on there, no bits or anything, and roll them over a towel or some kitchen towel just to dry them off a little bit, and pop those in the jar or the bottle, whatever canister you have. Then you add the sugar and the gin or vodka, give it a really, really good shake, and with the lid on. So put the lid on and give it a really, really good shake. And you need to keep it somewhere cool and dark, but not a fridge. Don't put it in a fridge. So the bottom of a cool cupboard outside in the garden shed's excellent. If it's cool out in your garden shed. Every day for a week, go outside or wherever you've kept your little solution and give it a really, really, really good shake, and leave it for at least 2 to 3 months. The longer you leave it, the sweeter and better it tastes, and the more syrupy it gets, and it's lovely. After the 3 months or so, I use a sieve lined with a bit of muslin, and that way I can get all the little icky bits out, and you sieve it. And then you just decant the finished liqueur into separate bottles. Sometimes label them, say when you've done it, and drink at your leisure. You can also add sloe gin to cranberry sauce. Oh, that's lovely. Add sloe gin to cranberry sauce. It's amazing. You can add it to puddings. So like sponge puddings, something in England we have called spotted dick. It's really nice added to spotted dick, or in the caramel sauce that you can make to go over puddings. And it's also really, really good in beef and or venison stews. Add a bit of sloe gin. Absolutely gorgeous. But like I said, the fresh berries, very, very drying. So, as I said, it's quite a contrary plant when it comes to witchcraft. And I think I would prefer not to say it's contrary. I prefer to think of it as an all-rounder that does a lot of things. But as I say, look into not just the ancient uses of the whole plant, but also, all the myths and legends that surround this amazing shrub and part of our lives. And that's it. Sloe and sloe gin, and that's what I really fancy right now. I have to go and let the cat in now because it'll be Kitty, she's scratching at the door. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, witchy people. I'll be back very soon with another spice or herb from my Sabbat Spicerack. Bye for now.